Hola, bienvenidos nuevamente a todos a mi canal, Spanish Blueprints. My name is Joshua. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you something that's very near and dear to my heart. And that is the 5 most common mistakes that language learners make. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic is because I have struggled a ton during my language learning journey. And that's why I want to share with you so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I have. And don't forget, if you enjoy this video and you find value in it, please give it a thumbs up. The first common mistake that many language learners make is that they're comparing themselves to other language learners and to native speakers. And I never imagined beforehand that comparing yourself to a native speaker of your target language, it can actually be a bad thing until recently when I actually experienced it. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So one of the biggest issues of comparing yourself to another language student is the fact that it is a fast track to killing your motivation completely. And I realized this after comparing myself to other language learners so many times, and I ended up being disappointed every single time because, of course, every single person is unique. Every single person has their own different learning style, and they're also at a different level. So I can't compare myself to another language learner if we're at different levels. Because it's not good to compare myself to another Spanish learner. Neither is it really realistic, because if I compare myself to them, they're at a different proficiency level than what I'm at, because number one, they probably started at a different time than I did. Then it's like you're almost making your own proficiency level, because you're saying what they have is exactly what you need, or where you need to be at. Oh, I need to speak exactly like them. I need to comprehend exactly like them. And that is only going to leave you disappointed, because now you're not chasing after your own language learning goals, but you're trying to be like someone else. And I've done this a lot with a lot of different language learners on YouTube. So when I see polyglots and things like that, I'm like, oh wow, I want to sound exactly like them. But these people, they've been studying for 15, 20 years. Some actually are professional teachers and or interpreters, so I probably should not be comparing myself to them because I don't have any of those qualifications. All right, hear me out. I'm not saying to not admire or be inspired by maybe like a YouTuber or one of your friends who has reached a certain level in the language that you're studying. Not like that at all. Because of course you need inspiration and motivation from other people and seeing their successes and being able to kind of get an idea of what you like as well, but you need to make sure that that's kind of separate from theirs as well and try to make it your own. Because this is your language learning journey and nobody else's. Oíste. Now let's change gears and talk about comparing yourself to a native speaker in your target language. And the reason why this is a common mistake is because a language learner might think that they need to speak exactly like a native before they can have a conversation with them. And this could be for a number of different reasons, because maybe they feel like they haven't reached a particular proficiency level yet, so they don't think that it's the correct time to have a conversation with a native. But when is the right time to talk to a native speaker in your target language? I would say right now, or depending on when you started, 10 days ago, a month ago, or a year ago. So don't let where you're at right now in your language learning journey restrict you from being able to have conversations with natives, because that's one of the main benefits of learning a new language, is that you can communicate with a whole bunch of more people now. So don't compare yourself to a native speaker in a way that's going to make you feel bad or ashamed with your particular level, and in a way that makes you feel like you have not made any progress at all. But that's not the case, because you need to put that bar where you are at and not where that other person is. Now, the second most common mistake that language learners make is studying way too many different resources all at one time. I know the temptation is very real to go out and download as many language learning apps as much as possible and buy a whole bunch of books that you are not going to read and buy a whole bunch of courses that you're not going to complete. But we need to be more strategic. This is exactly what happened to me when I first started to learn Spanish on my own after college. I downloaded everything and I was always researching what were different methods to study. I was extremely lost and unorganized on what exactly I should be studying, because I was putting my hands into too many buckets at one time and I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't really improving So overall, that led to a decrease in productivity, and then also increased my stress because I wasn't advancing as fast as I wanted to, and I had no idea why. I'm using this app and this app, and I'm reading all these different articles, and I'm also watching all these TV shows. What could possibly be wrong? Just make sure that you can manage the resources that you have right now. Make sure you don't try to venture off and test so many study methods all at once. So just do a few at a time. And if you feel like you are being very productive and that you are actually advancing in your skills and that you're reaching your goals, then maybe then is a good time to maybe start adding on some more, but only if that aligns with your goals. Because the study resources that we have need to align with our goals. But I think that's a video for another time. If you're having difficulties with finding good language learning resources, make sure that you watch my video by clicking on the card in the top right hand corner. Now, the third common mistake that language learners make is rejecting study material. And this may sound counter to my previous point, but let me explain. So you as a beginner in Spanish, you see so many study resources that have the title for advanced and for intermediate Spanish learners, right? And that puts you down a little bit, and you're like, well, I can't use that study resource then because, I'm not at that level. I don't want you to have that mentality because that's going to decrease a lot of good study opportunities for you. Just because you might not be able to comprehend everything in a particular study source does not mean that you can't make any use of it at all. So let's assume that you found an advanced podcast, right? And you don't comprehend everything, of course. So instead of trying to comprehend everything, just focus on how that native Spanish speaker is speaking. Try to focus on the pitch of the voice and their tone, and the way that they're speaking that particular word. Now, if you're watching something, then you could see how they're using their hand gestures. What does their face look like? Watch their lips. Watch other expressions that they make, because this is going to help you get more accustomed to the Spanish language, because all of those things are a part of speech and not just knowing that definition of the word. And then the second example that I have for you is, imagine for whatever reason you end up moving to a Spanish-speaking country, right? And you don't know any Spanish at all. What are you going to do? Are you not going to talk to anyone there? Or are you at least going to try to communicate with the people who are around you every single day? And you're going to try to learn from them as well. So don't get worked up about saying those advanced and intermediate titles, because at the end of the day, they're just titles. All right, now on the other hand, let's assume that you're already bilingual in Spanish and you have the mentality that, oh, you don't have to study the alphabet because you already know it and it's not going to help you. No, that's the wrong mentality, because I can probably tell you that a lot of the pronunciation errors that you're making are actually coming from the fact that maybe you have forgotten how a particular letter in the Spanish alphabet sounds. Because this has happened to me a lot, and I have felt very prideful about not reviewing the basics of the Spanish language, and that has hurt me. So now I'm actually going back to the basics now, even though I'm bilingual in Spanish. You can never be too prideful, because learning a language will always humble you. Now, the fourth common mistake is having unrealistic expectations. I think a lot of learners, including myself, we have this mentality, number one, because of the day and age that we're living in. So right now, we want everything incredibly fast. You don't want to watch commercials anymore because you don't have the patience to wait. You want Netflix without commercials. So in this kind of environment, we can lose patience incredibly fast when we're trying to learn a new language. But it takes a while. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes consistency, and you have to maintain the language as well. I think many language learners just underestimate how difficult it actually can be and how long the journey is to learn a language. I also say the same thing about the quantity that you can learn, because this has happened to me before, where I thought that I was going to get at a level where I was perfectly speaking, I was gonna know every possible word in Spanish, and basically that mentality of, oh, I know every possible thing that there is about this language. That mentality left pretty fast when I figured out how many different countries spoke Spanish and how many different accents that there were. So it's just best that we keep a realistic mentality about our language learning journey. That's where goals come in and are very important when it comes to this journey, because then you know exactly what you need and you're not just trying to reach perfection. Now for this last common mistake, I want you to guess. What is it? It's not speaking your target language. This can be one of the most challenging moments for a language learner, but this has to be done so you can improve your language skills, because speaking is a huge part of communication. It really is a mental battle. It's not just when you start to have conversations for the first time, but also when you maybe are already bilingual. Because I know, despite the hours and hours of conversations that I have had in Spanish with so many different native speakers, I still struggle with meeting new Spanish speakers and getting accustomed to their accents, really just communicating with new Spanish speakers in general, because every person is different and everybody has their own style of speaking. So it can be very difficult, when you're going from one accent to another. I'd also say speaking your target language is a very difficult skill to maintain. It's one thing, like right now, I can, read a whole bunch of things. I can understand and comprehend different articles in Spanish and different books in Spanish. But when it comes to actually, speaking that out, then for me, it becomes way more difficult. So that's where the practice comes in, and making sure that you develop those good habits of speaking your target language, whether that's with a native speaker or you're practicing with your language partner or by yourself. These are all really good methods to keep you speaking your target language. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you found value in it. And most of all, I hope that you feel more prepared for your language learning journey and that you won't make those mistakes. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be updated for upcoming videos from Spanish Blueprints. I'll see you next time.